storm, man.
Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all the sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
So Disney Plus has finally arrived, and with it, so has The Mandalorian. So of course, this episode will be hefty with talk of The Mandalorian, and with that means spoilers. You have been warned. This is The Wars and More. I'm Joe, and of course with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey Doug, how you doing this week?
I'm doing really good, Joe. How are you?
We got The Mandalorian. How do you think I feel?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've got to say, this is something we've been waiting a long time for. We've been really excited about, and I have to say, not disappointed for sure.
Yeah, not disappointed. The show didn't exactly come out swinging, but what it did do is let you know where you're at. You know what I mean? It really established itself in universe.
Right.
So it laid the groundwork. It let you know where it let you know you were in familiar territory.
That's for sure.
And there was no shortage of letting you know you were in familiar territory.
Yeah. The feel that you know, this is Star Wars you're watching. There was no doubt about that. I mean, right from the get-go, I felt like I was in Star Wars again. So I have to say, more so than some of the other stuff we've been seeing from Star Wars as of late. So this is,
yeah, I would agree with that, Senate. I mean, one thing this show's done, and does right out of the gate, is give you a lot of that familiar, alien species, stuff around the cantina, stuff around, like, just familiar.
right.
It lets you know, like, this is the Star Wars universe,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right. So you talk about the cantina, right?
Yeah.
The Mandalorian walks into this cantina looking for his bounty, and I don't recognize the species that his bounty is necessarily, but one of the thugs roughing him up, is a Quarren.
Yep.
That's a very familiar thing from Star Wars right there. So so right from the get-go, that's what I'm saying. It's I don't know. It made me feel good about this right off the bat. So, and
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in comparison, and I'm not looking to dog anything else that has been put out, but I mean, it just seems like there's a little lacking, right? Let's take, for instance, Solo. You have to look pretty hard to find the, let's say, quote unquote, Star Wars in Solo up until they're like trying to get their transport, Han and Kira, and then you're surrounded by Imperials everywhere, right? Prior to that, it's like, okay, this could be anything, until, oh, okay, we're that far in and we're getting to Star Wars. I mean, you had speeders, okay, but, nothing very familiar.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the like visual pitfalls of the Disney era Star Wars so far has been the fact that every time they put aliens on screen, it has to be new aliens.
Right.
It's been kind of irritating at times.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand it's a vast galaxy,
Right.
but like, couldn't you mix in a little of something we know,
Exactly.
just to ground it? I'm not I'm not one of those that like, oh, it's got to feel like the, cantina scene in A New Hope. No, I don't feel that at all. And I'm totally for the constant introduction of new species.
Sure.
But I feel like the galaxy is intermingled enough to where you're going to see familiar species no matter where you go.
Right. Yes.
No matter what cantina we've seen, it's always a diverse crowd.
Yep.
And why we can't see some familiar mixed in with that, I don't get. Like, it's always got to be new.
I know. I don't get it either. It's like
you could even do half the crowd new, half the crowd old, or even 3/4 new, quarter old.
Right.
We're not getting that much. Occasionally we get one old, old time alien mixed in with a crowd of 40,
Yes, exactly. Which, I understand, these are new stories. They're moving things forward, but yeah, it's almost like, our Star Wars stories are, moving to a point past where all of the things that make Star Wars familiar to us are like extinct or something, right? I mean, where's the Rhodians? I mean,
up until like halfway through The Last Jedi, the familiar aliens we had seen was Chewbacca and Akbar.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, this show has got that in abundance. So what did you think of the Mandalorian's bounty there that he was after, the first one there, the blue guy?
I like it because I feel like that would be the typical bounty. Probably a bail jumper or something like that,
Right.
Someone who made bail and is, just not showing up to court.
So what did you think of him? Like, here's my thing. I would have liked to have seen like maybe a heavy accent on him or something like that. Because when you're, he just sounded like a normal dude, with blue skin, fins, and glands.
I mean, not to jump ahead too much, but so did the Ugnaught.
To a degree, though, he had a peculiar way of speaking, which I thought was really cool.
Okay,
I have spoken.
I like that. I really like that. I have spoken. That's like this is not up for debate.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But yeah, in regards to the first bounty, I would have liked some accent there or something like that, but I was fine with it.
Yeah, I to a degree, he's kind of like setting us up to like get us into this story, right? I mean, we learn an awful lot through him right off the bat.
Yeah, he looked like a character. Like the thing I would have liked to have seen is that he looked like a species of like an aquatic planet or
right,
marshy, something like that.
Right.
Something damp, nothing dry.
Right.
Would have liked to have heard a little gargle in his voice.
That
like,
would have been good. Yeah.
Something that kind of was indicative of his natural habitat,
Right.
Nothing too crazy. Something subtle would have been just fine.
Yeah.
Just something that indicated that, that it was an alien species and not just another creature that speaks perfect basic.
Right. Which, I'm sure, I'm sure it can happen, but it just, that was a little bit atypical for Star Wars, right? You get a lot of that. I hate to even say this. You got a lot of that in like Star Trek. You know, people with their faces painted and a little prosthetic here and there, and they talk like everyone else. So,
Yeah. How you doing, my good man?
right. Take my credits.
I did like that though. Like the oh no, you have them. Buy yourself a drink. You know.
Oh, that was one of the favorite lines of my kids. I gotta say, I can take you in warm, or I can take you in cold.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the Mandalorian's demeanor throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I have to. So far, I really love the way Pedro Pascal is portraying this character. This is man, the parts where he's just ignoring this guy as he's talking and just trying to, that kind of stuff, and then even the interactions, right? So, and then later on, kind of opens up a little bit and is a little like freer with his personality when he's with our Ugnaught friend.
Yep.
And I like that even better, because I got to be honest with you, when you get that far into the episode, as far as like Mandalorian personality wise, I'm almost getting like a Sabine Wren vibe off of him as far as personality, right? To where it's like you especially with training to ride the blurg and being a little unsure of doing that, and it was more like Sabine Wren as opposed to, say, like a Pre Vizsla, right? Who's someone who's all,
Well, I mean,
warrior,
up until that point where he met, our Ugnaught friend there, I thought the character felt very cold.
Sure, absolutely.
And not a bad thing.
Right.
But you did get a little bit of life to the character.
Yes. Which I thought was excellent. I mean, and then that gets expanded on even more through the interaction with the IG-11 droid. So
yeah,
it was, as far as that kind of, the character itself throughout this episode, I think very, it was kind of like a slow roll, right? You started off with that cold, very distant, all business, until he could open up a little bit with these other characters, and we get to see a little bit of the personality. So
speaking of personality, Carl Weathers' character.
Yeah.
So after we get that bounty, he goes to turn in, and he's turning in his bounties to Grief Karga,
right,
which is Carl Weathers' character.
Yeah.
What do you think of Carl Weathers?
He's pretty cool so far. We didn't get a lot of them, but I pretty typical of how these negotiation type things go in Star Wars, right? He's going to try and pay him with Imperial credits, and he's like, no, not going to work. And then it's okay. I'll pay you with calamari flan, but I can only do half.
Right.
I dug it.
I like how that played out too. He went to grab the fobs there and walk away. He's like, stop with the theatrics.
Right.
Or hold the theatrics or whatever he said.
Right.
that delivery right there, that's what I was excited about with the announcement of Carl Weathers' involvement. The way he plays roles like that, like playing off another character,
Oh, right.
it's awesome.
Absolutely.
One of the best in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Because so in Predator, the movie Predator,
Uh-huh.
dude, the acting in that movie is so bad. With the exception of one character, in my opinion.
Right on.
And that's Carl Weathers. I just look, I love Arnold's movies and everything, but he's not the
Oh, yeah, we all know that.
best at interacting with
Right.
other characters.
Exactly.
His best moments in that film are when he is interacting with Carl Weathers, because Carl Weathers is good at that character to character interaction.
Right.
So, yeah. I was looking forward to that, and I'm glad it delivered exactly like I thought it would.
Absolutely. It was definitely a cool scene. I dug it.
Then we get to Mr. Herzog's character,
Ah, yes.
that we have a name on the IMDb as the Client.
The client.
So I'm assuming this is going to be a name reveal that'll show up later.
Yeah. I like this. This is, whenever. Okay. Talked about it before, right? Fan of history, right? When the Soviet Union fell, you had a lot of organizations like the KGB, right?
Yep.
A lot of those people there went from government employees, KGB, Secret Service type guys, into, almost like the Russian mob. So
Yeah, the mafia business, mob business.
Exactly. So, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, right? The empire fell, but there's still, fractured little pieces of it all over the place. So, we don't know anything really about him yet, other than, he's got a small contingent of stormtroopers and a doctor of some sort.
Yeah, it's awesome that you went there, because that's kind of the way I was going too. I feel like this is a character you're going to find out had some sort of standing in the Empire.
Yes.
Whether it be as a regional governor, something like that.
Yes.
And I was going to go the same route, like the Soviet Union fall,
Right.
things like that. And you see these, like these mobs form.
Yeah.
With these people that had standing, they can't let that go.
Exactly.
And not only can they not let that go, but since they were upstanding, they have loyalists
Right.
to them.
Right.
So they're able to form these organizations with the existing loyalists.
Yes.
And yeah, I like the way that's headed. I'm interested to hear where this character comes from.
Yes, because I not to jump too far ahead, but it appears as though he was in charge of or had some knowledge of some sort of something, like a project or something that was being undertaken while the Empire was still in power, right? And now he's trying to use his resources to maybe move this project or whatever this is along.
Do we want to avoid jumping to the end?
We don't have to.
Okay. Because I feel like we can jump around here at will,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
since the conversation right now really really plays to that.
Sure.
So in the end, we find this this child, not really a child because it's 50 years old,
50 years old. Yeah.
but is a child of that species, which is the same species as Yoda.
Right. So we got a baby Yoda.
Which I gotta say, a part of me looked at that and said, wow, Disney's toy department had some say
Right.
in what was going on here, because this is screaming plushy.
Plushy. Dude, with the eyes, Funko Pop.
Funko Pop for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Yoda Funko Pop was the inspiration for this.
It could be.
Because if you look at that, it looks like a baby something.
Yeah, totally.
And I would not be surprised if someone was looking at that going, huh.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if we made a baby one of these and
Yeah.
sold a crap ton of toys?
Oh, we could sell a ton of these. Yeah. So, I guess this ex-Imperial, his interest in this baby Yoda, it's got a lot of people talking, right? How do we put this? Where did this baby come from, right? A lot of people are wondering if, Yoda and Yaddle got down like way earlier.
Yoda and Yaddle got down, he says.
Whatever. Which I don't believe. Could have come from anywhere. We don't know anything about Yoda's species, right? And that's where a lot of this mystery lies. And it's like, is every member of that species force sensitive? We don't know.
Whoa, hold on a second.
What?
So you see Yoda in Yaddle in episode 1.
Right.
And only episode 1.
Right.
Then she disappears. Never to be seen or heard from again.
Okay.
That would be pretty close to 50 years.
Well.
Not quite, but close, I think.
Right.
Interesting.
Hey, who knows? I've also heard the theory being bounded about that this could be a clone, right? This could be a clone of Yoda himself. And if you think about it, thinking back to about the same time period, Senator Palpatine could be setting things in motion. He's got a lot of irons in the fire, right? One of them could be trying to clone himself a dark side version of the most powerful Jedi Master we know, right?
So my question there is, why not use some sort of age acceleration at that point? Because I mean, if it takes 50 years for this thing to still be a baby, I mean, this is this is like long game as long game gets.
I agree with that, but I think, right, so we know that Sidious is good at playing the long game, right? Because he did that. And you're right, this is the longest game out there, if that's the case. But I don't know. I mean, he's pretty confident. If that's his long game, he's pretty confident that he's going to be immortal. Yes.
Because you're talking 200 years before this thing's going to fully mature.
Which, okay. Since we're there, I'm going to just say it. Like, I mean, we've got this whole thing. They, IG-11 even says it. Some species age at different rates than others, right?
Uh-huh.
But my God, this would make Yoda like 18 years old You know, if you have a comparison from, if 50 years old is like an infant still.
Yeah, still sucking on your thumb.
Right.
Like, damn.
Hey, when 900 years old you reach, dude, that's only like 18 years. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, that's where I'm a little unsure about this whole 50-year-old baby thing.
Right.
But I guess we'll let that play out and see how that plays out. If it plays out, we don't know yet.
Maybe there's a huge growth spurt somewhere. Like right around 75 or 100.
Growth spurt. Nice.
I mean,
yeah, it's got to be something like that, right? I mean, I don't know, but hey, this is definitely intriguing. I mean, again, now I'm hearing a lot of talk about, oh wow, this means we're gonna find out what species Yoda is. We're going to find out more about all that. And I'm not so sure that we are.
So this is my thing. Okay. Yeah. Like with something like that, it's kind of a Pandora's box thing.
Right.
Okay. So you do a little bit. Then you're tempted to do a little bit more. Then you're tempted to do a little bit more. Then you're tempted to do a little bit more. And that's what I'm afraid of with this, baby.
Baby Yoda, yeah.
Baby Yoda. I don't like that term either.
I know. I'm just saying it for the ease of
contextual.
Yeah, context. Because, then we know who we're talking about, even though we all know it's not Yoda. But we don't have a species.
Oh, we don't all know that. I saw like theories that said Yoda is reincarnated, which is like, okay, well then how does Yoda transfer his thing to being this Force ghost in The Last Jedi? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
That doesn't make sense.
Like, if he was reincarnated, then this what's the word I'm looking for? Paranormal version of himself.
Yeah, the Force Ghost, right?
The Force Ghost, yeah. I'm trying to like put it into another ethereal.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this ethereal form of himself wouldn't be possible,
right?
Because his essence would now be in this child,
right?
So there's no way he could be this child and the ethereal Yoda that we get
right
here, unless this child's already learned how to force project and make themselves look older. Which I guess if it's Yoda, that's possible, but
and then would retain all the memories of the past life, which I don't think so.
Like, if Yoda wouldn't have showed up in The Last Jedi, this idea of his species being kind of like a phoenix would have been interesting,
right?
But he showed up in The Last Jedi, so
exactly.
I'm sorry, that's off the table in my opinion.
I agree.
Otherwise, it'd be a cool concept.
Yeah,
like, okay, maybe, yeah, he's 900 years old. Maybe this isn't the first time this has happened.
Right.
Maybe they are like a phoenix.
But
would be kind of cool.
But because he was in The Last Jedi, if it's got anything to do with Yoda, I think it's got to be something like a clone. Because...
Or Spawn.
Oh, yeah, maybe. There's a whole lot that he said to Anakin that he'd have to take back, though. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case. But
but if you go to some of the Mandalorian arc with Obi-Wan, there's a lot Obi-Wan said that Obi-Wan has to take back.
Oh, sure. I know. But that's Obi-Wan, right? I mean, Yoda's like,
Yeah, but I feel like Yoda would be able to twist this around to where it was like, that's not what I said. I said, don't do it the way you were doing it.
right. It's possible. It's possible. But
like Yoda would be able to word game the shit out of this.
That's why he talks the way he does.
Yeah.
I just think that clone would be the most logical thing, because we do know that Palpatine was playing the long game. You know, does he have access to Yoda's DNA? Sure. Yoda came and visited him in his office whenever he needed to, right? So that wouldn't have been hard to do. So
yeah, my issue with that is the length of time for that plan to mature.
Right, and that's
literally
only because of this 50-year-old baby thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm hung up on it a little bit, because
so let me toss one more thing into the ring here.
Okay.
So we know that during the time of the Empire, they were actively searching out force sensitive younglings.
Right.
Okay. For either and marking them either for death or conscription into the Empire's service.
Right. As inquisitors, whatnot.
Yes. So could this be a piece of that?
It's possible, but if it was that, I don't think there would be as much interest from this imperial dignitary. You know what I'm saying? I think
unless this was some sort of failure that's just lingering with him.
Maybe, but so what's the involvement with the doctor, right? I mean, for me, that doctor research. Well, hence I'm thinking clone. So I think
unless they're just going, hey, what the hell is this thing? Like, we saw one on the Jedi Council, we couldn't get any answers out of him.
Right.
He just kept talking in riddles the whole damn time and laughing at us. So let's research this one from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Or maybe in this time, the idea of something force sensitive is that intriguing to a scientist.
Right.
Because the access to force sensitive beings, especially in this time here, I mean, maybe there's an ulterior motive for this, the client, Herzog's character.
Right.
Maybe there's some incentive for him just to have a force sensitive that is allied with him.
Well, that's what I'm thinking he's going for.
Yeah, something to, he could take it, raise it as his own. It'll be loyal to him.
Right. And he'll be able to manipulate.
And by the time that thing's a teenager, he will have been dead for 30 years.
Right. That's the problem. That's the problem that I'm seeing here with this 50-year-old infant. It's that's the part that's really getting me. Because everything makes sense up until that.
Yeah, that's definitely the fly in the ointment here. Like what is the motive if you have to wait another 75 years before you can use this thing?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure at this point the galaxy is, aware of Luke Skywalker, right? We know that from Rey in The Force Awakens.
Yes.
Right? So, what Luke Skywalker did in Return of the Jedi is become legend. So, this guy, if he has, I'm sure he's feeling like if he has any chance of rebuilding the Empire in any manner, he's got to have a Force user on his side.
He's got to have a counter to Luke Skywalker.
Exactly. So
I
he's
mean,
going to try and create that in the image he wants it to be in. So,
and on the plus side, by the time this thing's matured, Luke Skywalker will be dead as well.
yeah, right.
So, setting this plan in motion for when we are gone.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we're questioning here. I have a feeling we are never going to find out about. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like one, because you're not going to see this thing mature in the course of this show unless one day it just like bright white light and ends up being a teenager or middle-aged or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way we see this materialize. This is definitely the MacGuffin of the show,
For sure.
at least for a period of time.
Yes. And so I just want to counter all of those who are all excited about learning everything about Yoda's species and, you know, having all of our questions about that be answered.
You got something that says that's not going to happen?
Well, not specifically, but a generalization. Okay.
That's something I don't want to have happen.
But let's just listen to Dave Filoni for a second. Talk about how it is not knowing. Okay.
The not knowing of things happening outside of your view. When I was a kid watching Star Wars, the not knowing who this emperor is that they briefly mention in one scene in A New Hope, the not knowing the scale of things was rather intimidating in a great way. And so I think we're dealing with characters that are dealing with their daily lives, but then get affected by a greater galaxy.
So he likes playing with the not knowing all the details about a certain thing. And I feel like this character, this little baby, we know that it's the same species as Yoda, but I don't think we're going to get all the details filled in.
I hope not.
So I got a feeling at best, we might get a name of the species, but that's it. That's my guess. So
yeah, so real quick, I'm going to avoid going on too much of a tangent here because I'm one of those who is getting excitable about this, but not because I want these secrets revealed.
Right.
I think a lot of the allure of the character of Yoda is the mystery that surrounds the character.
Yes.
We don't know the species. We don't know how long they'd live if they live a, full life. I guess 900 is probably a pretty good guess.
Yep.
But we don't know that there isn't anything, because especially now that we hear 50 and Yoda's like 18.
Right.
So we don't know that there wasn't like other effects on Yoda, like that weakened him, his disconnection from the Force. Maybe his entire species is Force sensitive.
Yeah.
Maybe his having to disconnect from that to hide himself weakened him. We don't know.
We don't know. What we do know is we only have a total of 3 examples of this species, right? And 2 of them were on the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
So, assuming that this baby may be Force sensitive is not too much of a stretch.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, maybe Force sensitive. I mean, that thing was floating at the end and it didn't look like it had any,
Right, but I this is Star Wars. That little whatever you want to call it, a Superman baby spaceship thing. Might have it might have had repulsors on it. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't see any.
Well, you don't know. It's hard to say.
Agreed.
It's possible. I choose to, allow for that. In my mind, it was floating though.
It was totally floating.
Yeah,
and I think it was floating because this baby is force sensitive, and I think that is the reason why this baby is a target.
I would agree there. I think it's got to have something
clone,
to do with it.
Possible.
Not necessarily this so though. It could be, born of the natural way. And,
yeah, like Yoda and Yaddle getting down.
Yeah.
Right. We established that earlier.
and, who knows? Could be that every member of that species is force sensitive. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that species doesn't even need a mate to reproduce.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they just got to stick their finger in the ground and bam.
Oh God,
baby grows.
Oh.
Maybe it's a species that just appears out of thin air when so many of them are not there.
It's possible. I don't know, man.
Have something to add to the conversation, or you just want to let us know how we're doing? Email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get in on the action. But if social media is a little more to your liking, @TheWarsAndMore on Twitter is always a good place to interact with us. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/TheWarsAndMore. And of course, your portal to this and everything else, The Wars and More, is thewarsandmore.com.
All right, so now that we spent the last 15 minutes or so talk about the end of the episode, which it was fair. It was It was really fair because it really tied into the motivations of why he was being sent on this bounty.
Right, exactly.
So it was fair. I feel like
yeah. I totally agree.
But immediately after this interaction, we went into one of what I thought was one of the coolest scenes in this entire episode.
I would agree. I just wanted to make a note real quick, right? I was kind of like, I wasn't taking notes, but I was kind of noting, when the Mandalorian was like hopping on the Razor Crest and going from planet to planet. And after this, and going to where you're going to talk about, there was no planet hopping. So I was assuming this had to be all on the same planet.
Yes. Which is convenient.
Yes.
But, hey.
I just wanted to make a note of that because,
Quick question.
Yeah.
You think this is Tatooine we're on? Because that's one thing I will say. That's one thing we did not get in this at all. We had no clue what planets we were on.
So, like, in the original trilogy, there was dialogue regarding where they were at, right? Things like that. Mm-hmm. You talk about like Rogue One. It actually said it on screen in text. Yeah, we got nothing here.
No dialogue, no text,
right?
Nothing. We have no idea where we're at, other than what's probably going to come in the special features later on.
Right. I think this is Tatooine. Okay, I think this is a part of Tatooine that we have never seen before.
Yeah,
but the environment screams Tatooine. Some of the alien species, right?
Yep. The Kowakian monkey lizard on a spit.
Right. With Jawas checking out the mechanical merchandise just, half a block over.
Which if this is Tatooine, I mean, this is the show creators here saying, we have given you so much of letting you know you are in the familiar that we didn't even have to tell you what planet you were on.
Yes. And I like
And
that.
you knew.
Yes. Well, it's just like, okay.
If it's not Tatooine, it's going to be like, well, why the hell didn't you tell us?
Right. So I agree with that. It's just like when the Mandalorian goes to the planet where he's going to find the Baby Yoda. I have to assume that is Ryloth, because that's where we've seen the Blurgs before. So,
good catch. You think that's Ryloth? Was Ryloth a desert? Was it a desert planet?
Pretty much. So,
yeah, I guess so.
I mean, but now, granted, we were, way out in, we'll call the wilderness of Ryloth. But yeah, we saw no Twi'leks there. So,
interesting. So we were able to pinpoint too. What was the first planet, Mr. Smarty Pants?
Oh, the ice planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got no clue. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, because there's.
But that is a change of pace. Like it we're not getting any clue as to where we're at.
Right.
Unless we're missing it.
Yeah, it's possible.
But it would be odd here that I watched it, 2.5 times.
Right.
Because I won't count my third time, because my third time I was going, okay, I got to go to this part.
Right.
Okay, I got to go to this part.
Right.
So, but in 2.5 viewings for me, and how many times you watch it?
Probably 4.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If in 6.5 combined viewings, neither one of us caught any planet names.
Yeah.
There were no planet
names. Right. Exactly.
If we're wrong here, please feel free to berate us.
Yeah.
Because we would deserve it at that point.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would assume this is Tatooine.
Yes. So, somewhere on Tatooine, you can apparently walk off the street through a curtain, and then you are...
You are what?
In a Mandalorian hideout.
Oh. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah. Well, that's where we started going, so I figured we'd get us back on track.
And what did they call it? The tribe?
Yes.
The armorer that we haven't mentioned yet, but
right.
Yeah. Did refer to it as the tribe.
Right.
So not the clan.
Which is yeah, I was just going to say it's a little different from what we've seen in the past with the Mandalorians. They were clans.
I would assume because they're probably from different houses. These are the survivors.
I agree, because the armorer also asked the Mandalorian, has your signet been revealed yet? Right. A signet would imply a name, and he says no. So I'm wondering at this point, does the Mandalorian even know who he is? I don't know. They've gone to great lengths to give off this vibe of, the man with no name kind of vibe, and the masked man. Who is he? Right.
Which we will have a comment on, and we will save that. I will say we will save that for the very end.
Right.
And we'll give one more spoiler warning, because this is not something that's been revealed in the show yet, but has been revealed by Pedro Pascal.
Correct.
So we will get into that, but we'll save that for the very end.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask. So what did you think of this Mandalorian hall that we end up in?
Well, when I first saw it, I was blown away. Okay, because I thought what we were going to get from this show was the Mandalorian was like the Mandalorian, right? It would be a rare thing for him to cross paths with another. except there they all are, right? So
Yeah, which I think this actually makes more sense.
I think so too, especially when they get into, talking about the leftover credits, right?
Mhm.
This, the extra will go to help a bunch of foundlings,
Mhm.
and he's like, "That's good. I was a foundling." It's like, aha, the Mandalorians have been split up, scattered, and they're trying to kind of regroup to their own
Trying
people.
to connect with their warrior ways.
Right. So it's kind of that's kind of like a, they're setting up a cool secondary plot line, I guess,
Yeah.
which I like, right? Because for those who don't know, we are going to be seeing probably what was mentioned in this episode as the Great Purge in the final season of the Clone Wars coming up.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of like a Knights Templar in hiding after the Inquisition, like.
Yes, very good.
So you have a group that survived, that bands together, but kind of stays in hiding on this remote world,
Yes.
And now they're able to kind of step out into the light a little bit more because the Empire is gone.
Right.
I have a feeling you're going to get a little bit of backstory into what it was like for them under the Empire a little bit.
Well, I mean, what we know of the Mandalorians is they, when it came to the galactic war, right? The Clone War, they really didn't take sides, but they were fiercely independent.
Yes.
So once the Empire came to be, I imagine that is something the Empire could not put up with, is how independent Mandalore was.
Well, if you remember in Rebels,
oh yes, we had some Mandalorians that actually sided with the Empire eventually.
yes, the bulk of the remaining houses,
Yes,
and those who even didn't really stand with the Empire still kind of allied just for the sake of survival.
right.
So maybe their involvement with the rebels in pushing the Empire back a little bit was met with a much harsher punishment.
Right.
Which I gotta say, so I gotta bring up, during this scene you see a flashback.
Yes.
Okay. And for the last couple weeks, ever since the trailer for the Monday Night Football,
Yep.
there's been talk of, you see this flashback and you see battle droids in it.
Yeah. Which in the trailer you do.
Yeah. Oh, blatantly. But right before we started recording tonight, I went through and before we talked about this, I went through those flashback scenes, scene by scene, and I didn't see any battle droids.
Gotcha.
Makes a lot more sense to me, unless the Empire used battle droids for some reason, because we know Mandalore was still standing during the time of the rebellion because of rebels.
Right.
So this purge didn't happen at the hand of battle droids. It couldn't have, unless the Empire, recommissioned these things to do just this.
Huh. This is something that might take might deserve some looking into, because
because Mandalore and the clans were all intact in Star Wars Rebels, well after
Right.
the time of the battle droids.
right. So we talked about Sabine Wren earlier, right? She developed this weapon for use against Mandalorians with their armor. I wonder if that might be what is regarded as the Great Purge now, because
That would have been much more useful. Now, that
Yeah.
particular one they were using was destroyed,
that is true.
but
but
but-
maybe that's the time frame,
yeah,
because they were definitely trying to, any of the clans that were not on board with siding with the Empire, they were wanting them gone.
yeah, they were definitely marked for death.
Yeah. And those clans who did side with the Empire, one thing you noticed is they all had uniform armor.
Yeah,
And it was
white armor with the Imperial cog on the side.
Exactly. And it reminded you more of a stormtrooper than it did a Mandalorian at times. So,
Yes.
yeah, I would say that any Mandalorians who wanted to retain their independence and their individuality to their clans, that was probably a bad thing.
Yeah.
One thing you did see was only what we can assume to be Pedro Pascal's character, right? As a boy being hidden. So I'm thinking that's probably when his parents were taken out, and somebody found him and raised him, and told him where he came from, but that's pretty much all he's got.
Right. Yeah, I would assume any purge like that. Now, we have no context on this character's age at all.
Correct.
So maybe his flashbacks are from a separatist invasion, but not necessarily from the purge.
Okay.
So maybe he is old enough to remember, the separatist, attack on Mandalore,
Right.
and that first bit of fracture, and then the purge would be something else.
It's possible.
But I would think any purge that would push a large amount of Mandalorians into hiding off-world would have to be post Sabine Wren and Bo-Katan and the Darksaber.
Right.
It would have to be post all that.
Yeah. That would make sense. Which
Because-
all of that is around the time frame of episode 4. Right? Pretty close.
Yes.
So interesting.
But yeah, so what do you think of the forging of his I believe they refer to it as a pauldron, right?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. The techniques they were using were a little strange, a little different. It was so my kids were complaining a little bit. It's like, you can't get metal to move if you're only hitting it that hard. But I was like, hey, this is Star Wars. It could be a power hammer. I don't know. It's
Well,
but
so I'll say this.
yeah.
That armorer already had tools out working on something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I
the
noticed
special
this.
cabinet was open because she was going to be dealing with Beskar.
Beskar, right, for sure.
So I'm assuming these tools are specific to working with Beskar.
Right.
This is if you want true Mandalorian armor from the Mandalorian iron, you need to use these tools.
Right.
You can't just use the stuff we use to make Boba Fett's armor, like.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it. I like the the costume design of the armorer as well. I liked her helmet, right? It's more of a female style, right? But it looks very Spartan.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With the shape of the helmet. And then it had those spikes on top, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought the fur was a nice touch too.
And exactly, the fur. That was cool.
Because that gives it you're going to an armor.
Right.
Like going to it's like going to a blacksmith.
Yes.
And every time in these, you watch these shows for like medieval times or Viking times, anything like that, you go to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith always has a little more of a rugged look to them than your protagonist.
Yeah.
And I thought that fur being on there gave her a little more of a rugged look. Like this is a person who knows the craft of armor and weapons.
Right.
They just have that little extra grit that it takes to be able to master that.
Right.
So I thought that was a nice touch.
It was.
A little more barbaric, if you will. Seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
someone who's content in life with pounding metal into shapes of items of war, they have to have a little more of a barbaric touch to them.
Right.
So I dug it.
It was cool. Definitely cool. I'd be interested to see what the rest of that place looks like, right? Or is it just an armorer down there, But it looked like, there's kids running around and other Mandalorians. So
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
okay.
So there is a lot of buzz around one particular person in that hallway walking up to the armorer
Uh-huh.
that has been screenshotted and shared all over the place looking eerily like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I mean, down to the dent in the helmet.
Yeah.
Now, at a glance at real speed, you see none of this.
Right.
And even pausing it on my computer screen here, I didn't make out all these details.
Yep, I'm with you.
So, but the shots I've seen, that looks freakishly like Boba Fett.
Right. So
What do you make of that?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not willing to go out on that limb to say that it's Boba Fett or to say it's even Boba Fett's armor. Although we
The
do
Aftermath
know,
series, right?
correct, there is that, and it is implied that somebody else finds his armor and uses it. But this would also not. I don't believe this would be a Mandalorian here. So I would like to think that somebody just wearing Mandalorian armor trying to blend in with Mandalorians would be sussed out pretty quick.
Yes.
So
I would say, and this may not be popular, but I would say it would be someone who really appreciates what Boba Fett was.
right.
And not to call them a cosplayer, but similar. Someone who is a copycat of sorts.
Yeah, or maybe paints their armor in the image of Boba Fett to honor Boba Fett. But
Right.
But then again,
Not a Mandalorian.
he's not a Mandalorian, right? So we know that. So I don't know.
But I would say if this is Tatooine,
Which we think it is.
which we think it is, this person would be a bit of a legend.
Yeah.
And the appeal of looking like said legend, paying homage to, would have a certain bit of allure.
Yeah, it could. It could.
Even trying to copy that just for the intimidation factor. A legend of those parts, you look like them, you're probably going to have a little bit of sway.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
Just a thought.
Just a thought. Yeah.
I would not get my hopes up to have this explored any deeper.
I agree. I think that's going to be left out from now on moving forward. So, yeah, I can't see them. I don't know. If
for the Boba Fett faithful, I think this is your nod. This is your little nugget. I wouldn't expect a whole lot more.
if we got more, I could see him getting something like Boba Fett, the imposter, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. He was killed, blah, blah, blah. Basically putting a exclamation point on what we have already seen in the past.
Yes.
Sorry, all you Boba Fett lovers, but I think
Hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe wearing the armor of the imposter is a punishment.
Maybe. Could be. But
That's kind of rude, I think, though.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we're gonna ever see anything about Boba Fett, I think it's got to be from further in the past than moving forward, because I think the Sarlacc got him pretty good.
Yep. Pretty good and dead, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not. I don't have high hopes for Boba Fett.
No. So I know we're getting pretty long here, but
Yep.
One last thing I did want to make quick mention of. We talked about forging the armor and all that. I was amazed at how many times the Mandalorian got shot in this episode. And these blaster bolts deflected off the armor just fine. Right? Or the armor absorbed it, however it works. But it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Because it happened in the bar fight, and it happened with IG-11 going after the Baby Yoda. So
God, I hate that.
yeah, sorry. But
I know. It's the best way to ground it and
right.
to say it to where everybody's on board, but I hate that. Baby Yoda.
But I just thought it was kind of funny. He's a Mandalorian. He's like this badass, but man, he got shot a couple times in this episode, and his arm almost got chomped off from a blurg. It's like, kind of like seeing a lot of vulnerability right out the gate.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is not a super accomplished character.
Right.
I feel like this is a character who is kind of making their rite of passage.
I would agree.
And I think the forging of the armor is kind of indicative of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just about to say, in more ways than one. I
Yeah,
think
like
another
earning these pieces of Beskar
Yeah.
to forge new pieces of armor and complete their, like I said, rite of passage to being a true Mandalorian.
Yep. And I think another part of that is going to be when the signet is finally revealed. Right?
Yeah.
So
That's that rite of passage thing, you know.
Yep.
I think that's probably going to be your climax to season 1 here.
It may be.
You know, your character here finally gets their badge, you know.
Right.
You know, that'll be there's a new sheriff in town moment. Like,
yeah.
But okay, so we mentioned it a couple times throughout here.
Yeah.
IG-11.
Ah, yes. This guy,
okay.
Empire Strikes Back, we saw IG-88.
Uh-huh.
It's this robot holding a blaster. And you're thinking, really? Number one, what's a robot want with money? And number two, how good could he really be in a firefight?
Okay. So first part of your question there.
Yeah.
What's this robot want with money? That got doubled down on in this with what does a robot want with reputation?
I know. Yeah.
This robot wanted the reputation that goes along with this bounty.
Exactly.
So that was interesting.
It was, because that's also a secondary piece of this bounty hunters guild that they belong to. It must be how they're ranked or something. So,
yeah. And as far as the money and reputation and things like that, it's probably how just with this level of awareness being, wired in, the situational awareness that this droid has.
Right.
It probably comes with some of that just by nature.
Right.
Just by, the way things work. In order to have that, you almost had to program in some free will.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what, in combat, this is one of the coolest things I've seen in Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree.
You always looked at that droid like, how is that droid that kick-ass?
Exactly.
It looks clunky, but you realize that everything that spins on that, it's like that's how they see everything that's going on around them and can react so fast.
Right.
Everything moves in a 360. It was cool.
Which was really cool. So my only hang up with this droid, which it's not a bad hang up, it's a hilarious hang up. Boy, he was ready to kill himself.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, okay, initiating self-destruct.
Yeah.
No, not yet. Okay, how about now?
And then at the end, it's like, oh, they're all dead. Okay, I'll disable this.
Yeah. I just thought that was hilarious. But it made me laugh. I will say that. This
For sure.
Multiple attempts at blowing himself up.
So I will say in all this, right? Like IG-11 aside here for a second.
Yeah.
In all this, I can't wait for the special features, and I hope they dive into this a little bit. I kind of wonder how much, if at all, are they speeding up Pedro's draw?
Oh. Yeah, that'd be good to know.
Because if they're not speeding it up,
He's
man,
that
this guy
fast.
knows how to draw a
Yeah.
blaster.
Yeah, agreed.
Like where was this guy in the days of filming Old West movies, right? Like,
right.
because if they are speeding it up, it looks really good.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just kind of curious on how much, if at all, are they speeding him up for this draw?
Where that was really prevalent to me was after they got the door blown open.
Yeah,
right?
the one that comes out from the corner there.
Yeah. And then I also loved what he said after that.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a certain arrogance there that is just right. Like they put just the right amount of arrogance in there
Yeah.
to make this character like super intriguing.
Right.
Like he's got enough skill. Like when he got on that turret,
Oh, yeah.
you know, this is why you have a Mandalorian doing this, right? Like this is what a Mandalorian can do.
Right.
Like it's in their blood.
Yeah, for sure.
So I dug that. I do like the like, well, how do we get in here moment? And they both turn their heads to look at that turret.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great.
The way they had the IG unit turn, you know, his receptors there.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that was a beautiful scene.
Yes,
Like,
it was. That was definitely
so
good.
simple but so awesome.
It's things like that, you know, on top of the visuals, things like that right there are Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that was a Star Wars moment for sure.
Yes.
A little bit of comedy mixed in with the kind of seriousness of the moment,
Yes. Absolutely.
and not overtly comedic, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
but not overtly serious.
Yeah.
So fun, funny. Yeah. I think this show had all of that in a very promising way.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it wasn't as meaty as I was expecting.
Right.
I was kind of expecting a little more of a thud out of the gate, you know, like,
Yeah.
but it was enough.
It was enough. It was a good starting point, a kickoff. I also think, you know, most people probably thought it was going to be longer, right? I did.
Yeah, I was thinking an hour.
Right, and it wasn't that long.
No, it was 38 minutes. It was an hour if you had commercials.
Right, which they don't have. So,
Yeah.
But I think, you know, they definitely wanted to leave it on this cliffhanger. So,
Do you think that's going to be the consistent runtime?
I don't know. I would like to think, because they don't have, you know, a standard like 44-minute per hour, you know, time frame they have to adhere to. So they could be twice this long if they want, you know, each episode. So I'm hoping that we get more moving forward.
Right.
But we'll see. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, so as we wrap up here, and before we get to the one little bombshell we said we had to discuss, I'll say that first off, looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score, just out of fun, right?
Yeah.
So, as of right now, critic score 86%.
Nice.
Okay, so pretty good.
Absolutely good.
But, and I don't want to sound negative when I say it like this, but this is promising for a Star Wars property these days. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the average audience score
Uh-huh.
is 94%.
Nice. I would call that well received.
Yes. Well received, and we haven't even gotten much.
Right.
We've just gotten a taste. So this is something we'll monitor as we go along.
Okay.
Just
I like it. Yeah.
just to see how it's looking, at least on the Rotten Tomatoes side. That's Rotten Tomatoes is a funny site sometimes, because I feel like at times the critic score is not fair, and at times I feel like the audience score is not fair.
Right. Right.
So this one seems pretty balanced right now, and the ones that are more balanced, I tend to find as more accurate to the overall feel of a show.
Agreed. Because in some of the circumstances of like the other ones you were just mentioning, the other ways scores can go, sometimes you feel like those stats can be gamed a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, if a critic scores 80%, or let's say 70 to 80%, and then the audience scores 20, I feel like something's happening there.
Yeah, agreed.
That's not indicative of how the audience truly feels.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Right.
If the audience scores super high and the critic scores super low, I feel like there's some ulterior thing going on.
Yeah.
And
then it's up to us to try and figure out what. And, that's not always good.
Yeah, I tend to find the ones that are within, I'll even go as broad as 20 points of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to find those as more accurate.
Right.
So this one's sitting at about within less than 10 points of each other. Critic to audience.
Yep.
I'd say that this is pretty accurate to how people really feel about this show.
Right.
So, all right. I'll also say, so we are at a bit of a sticking point right now, right? I would say.
Yeah, kind of a little bit. Yeah.
So with our current release schedule, we realized that we're not going to be able to be on top of The Mandalorian as well as we'd like to be.
Right.
As for right now, our current release schedule is going to stand, which means you will be listening to our release of the show that would include the prior week's Mandalorian episode.
Right. It's going to
while the new one's being released.
Right.
So
it'll be like a full week behind, kind of.
Yes. We're reviewing that, trying to get something worked out to where we could, at least get our show out ahead of the Friday release of The Mandalorian.
Right.
But sometimes life takes over and that may not happen. But it's in our sights.
Yes.
It's something we're reviewing.
Yeah.
So
in case you're looking at, well, how come they're talking about the older episode? We are definitely trying to figure it out for sure.
Yeah. So this may take some time to work out, but it's in review. We're busy guys.
Right.
So last thing, and then we need to get the hell out of here because, man, we're running long.
We are running long.
And all we've talked about is The Mandalorian.
That's it. Yeah, it's amazing.
There's other stuff going on, but I mean, not as important as this, right?
Right. Exactly.
This new Star Wars. So I'm going to throw out a spoiler alert on top of our spoiler alert because this one goes beyond what we've seen in this episode.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hear anything that could be revealed later on in the season of The Mandalorian, stop now and we'll see you next week. But if you do, here we go.
So I do want to say this is actually taken from the set of season 2 So I don't know when he found out this information, but whether it's in season 1 or season 2, I don't want to get your hopes up for season 1 if it isn't there. But it's Pedro Pascal, and he knows who this guy is. So it might be a little hard to hear. So pay close attention.
He talked really quiet.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, whose name is Din Djarin, is your iconically cool, flawed, mysterious, loner, gunslinger that harkens to the, best of the samurai movies and the westerns. And
so, right at the beginning there, I'll hit the beginning again, just so hear it again.
The Mandalorian, whose name is Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
Yeah. So apparently,
Well, I got to say, kind of a reveal I was hoping for in the show.
on the show, exactly.
But at the same time, y'all heard me while we were talking about the show for, forever leading up to it. I like that idea of this man with no name.
Right.
I kind of didn't want this. And I especially didn't want it this early.
Yeah. I was going to say after the first episode.
But, part of the downfall of what we do is we look into this stuff and sometimes we're like, damn.
Yep, exactly.
Now I know beforehand.
And then we bring it all to you guys, so suffer with us.
Yeah, we're at least nice enough to give you a spoiler warning before that. They didn't say nothing.
Right.
They said it. I was like, oh,
yep.
Thanks for the heads up, buddy.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Din Djarin. Interesting.
As of right now, it really holds no significance that we can discern. But
yeah, I went digging.
Yeah.
I know you went digging because you told me, hey, stop digging, because I dug and
it was
you dug.
The name sounds almost familiar to me. I don't know if it's similar to some other name, like from an old EU comic or something, but I can't really place it, and I don't think it's exactly the same. So, all will be revealed as we go along, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As far as what
you don't know if it's similar. I don't know.
It means
it's got a similar vibe to a name like, was it Dash Rendar?
Well,
I'm just saying vibe wise, like
right.
It's got that, it's got that whole. Maybe I'm just sticking with D's here, but Dak, like
right. I was thinking is the similarity may be Jarek or something, but I'm not sure. My memory's a little fuzzy on this, so, and I can't remember exactly where I saw it, so
right.
But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
But, hey, thanks, Pedro. Let that one out of the bag.
Yeah, whatever, I guess, right?
Right.
He obviously got clearance for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or scolded.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like if it was worthy of scolding, that would have never seen the light of day.
Exactly.
Not with Disney behind it.
Right.
So I think Disney's got enough sway and power that they could have told them, you are not airing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would have complied. Because you have access to the actors. You don't want to lose that.
Exactly.
So it got clearance for some reason. Maybe we'll find out that it really has no significance whatsoever.
It's possible.
So, well, if you have anything to add about The Mandalorian, about anything, really, you can always email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on social media. We're at The Wars and More on Twitter, facebook.com/thewarsandmore. You can find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewarsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
I have spoken.
I like it. All right. We will talk next week.